Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because today we are looking at a South African coin that many people may have overlooked for years. A small piece of metal sitting inside an old collection, a drawer, or a family box could have a story that is far more interesting than anyone imagined. Stay with me until the end, because I will reveal the surprising value connected with this 2016 South Africa coin. Coins are not just pieces of money. For collectors, every coin carries history, design, memories, and sometimes a hidden opportunity. Many people spend coins without ever looking closely at the details that can make one example different from millions of others. The year, condition, minting quality, special features, and collector demand can completely change the importance of an ordinary-looking coin. The South African 2016 coin is a fascinating example of how modern coins can attract attention from collectors around the world. At first glance, it may look like a regular coin that was produced for everyday use. But experienced collectors know that the smallest details can sometimes create the biggest interest. The year 2016 was an important period for South African coin production. During this time, millions of coins were produced for circulation, and each one represented a part of South Africa's economic history. These coins were used by everyday people, passed from hand to hand, and became part of daily life. But over time, collectors began paying closer attention to certain examples that showed unusual characteristics. When examining a 2016 South African coin, collectors usually look carefully at the condition. A coin that has been heavily circulated may show scratches, fading, and signs of wear from years of use. However, a coin kept in excellent condition with sharp details, strong lettering, and a clean surface can become much more desirable. The design of South African coins has always been meaningful. The images, symbols, and inscriptions represent the country's identity and heritage. Collectors often appreciate coins not only because of their possible value but because they preserve a small piece of history that can be held in your hand. Many older collectors, especially those who have spent decades collecting coins, understand that patience is one of the most important parts of this hobby. Some of the most interesting discoveries have come from people who simply decided to check through old jars, inherited collections, or forgotten boxes of coins. A coin does not always need to be extremely old to attract attention. While many people believe only ancient coins can be valuable, modern coins can also become important when they have special qualities, limited availability, unusual mistakes, or exceptional condition. The 2016 South Africa coin represents a reminder that every coin deserves a closer look before being ignored. Collectors often examine details such as the strike quality, the edges, the lettering, the design accuracy, and any possible differences from standard examples. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is judging a coin only by its face value. A coin worth a few cents or a few rand in everyday use may have a completely different story in the collector market. The true importance of a coin comes from rarity, demand, and the interest it creates among collectors. For the excitement of coin collecting comes from the possibility of discovery. Every collection has a story. Every coin has traveled a unique journey. Some coins have been saved for generations, while others have been forgotten until someone recognizes their importance. The South African 2016 coin has become a topic of interest because it represents the idea that hidden treasures can exist in unexpected places. Whether you are a long-time collector or someone who has just started exploring coins, learning how to identify important features can make the hobby much more rewarding. Collectors also understand that values can vary greatly depending on authenticity, grading, market demand, and the specific characteristics of an individual coin. Two coins from the same year can have completely different levels of interest depending on their condition and unique features. That is why careful examination is always important. A magnifying glass, good lighting, and knowledge of coin details can help collectors discover things that are impossible to see with the naked eye. The world of coins is filled with stories of surprising discoveries. People have found valuable coins in old collections, inherited items, and even loose change. These stories continue to inspire collectors to look carefully at every coin they encounter. So if you have a South African 2016 coin, do not simply ignore it. Take a moment to inspect it. Look at the design, check the condition, and compare it with collector information. The smallest details can sometimes create the biggest difference. Remember, collecting is not only about money. It is about history, curiosity, and the excitement of finding something special. Every coin has a journey, and sometimes the journey can lead to an unexpected discovery.
Before we begin, take a second to subscribe to the channel and stay with us, because stories like this don't come around often. And if you appreciate real history, real metal, and real value, you're in the right place. Today I want to talk to you about a coin that many people have held in their hands without a second thought. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, yet carries a deeper meaning, a deeper weight, and a story that quietly speaks to experience, patience, and wisdom. This is the 5 Rand coin from South Africa, dated 2020. Not flashy, not loud, but powerful in the way only time-tested things can be. For those of us who grew up when money felt solid, when coins had heft and purpose, this piece immediately feels familiar. The 5 Rand has always stood for strength and stability in South African currency, and the 2020 issue arrived at a very specific moment in history. It was a year when the world slowed down, when markets shook, and when many men began looking again at tangible assets instead of promises on paper. Coins like this one quietly stepped back into the conversation. This coin is more than just a means of exchange. It represents a nation with deep roots in mining, metal, and resilience. South Africa's history with precious metals is legendary, and even when a coin is not made of gold, that heritage still echoes through its design, its finish, and its purpose. The 5 Rand has always been associated with reliability. It was never meant to impress with shine alone, but with trust. The 2025 Rand carries a modern strike, but a traditional soul. The detail is clean and confident. The symbols reflect authority, heritage, and balance. To the trained eye, this coin speaks clearly. It says this was made to last. It says this was made to be handled, not hidden. And it says this belongs to a monetary system that understands the value of weight and clarity. Men who have lived a few decades know that value is not always obvious at first glance. Real value often sits quietly while the world chases noise. That's why coins like this matter. They reward patience. They reward curiosity. They reward those who look twice. In 2020, millions of these coins entered circulation, but not all coins live the same life. Some are spent and forgotten. Some are worn down by years of use. And some, quietly set aside, remain untouched, preserved in exceptional condition. This is where the story changes. Condition matters. Timing matters. And history matters. Collectors who understand the long game look at coins like the 5 Rand 2020 not as spare change, but as markers of a moment in time. That year marked economic uncertainty, shifting global power, and renewed interest in physical assets. Coins minted during such periods often gain attention later, not because they were rare at birth, but because they become symbols of survival and transition. For men in the 55 to 65 age range, this kind of story resonates. You've seen cycles rise and fall. You've seen trends come and go. You know that the things worth keeping are usually the things that don't scream for attention. A solid coin, tied to a real country, real history, and real metal, fits that philosophy perfectly. There is also pride attached to this coin. South African currency has long been respected across borders, especially among collectors who appreciate African numismatics. The 5 Rand stands as a flagship denomination, large enough to matter, familiar enough to trust. The 2020 date anchors it firmly in recent memory, while still allowing room for future appreciation. Some collectors focus on small details most people miss. The sharpness of the strike, the balance of the design, the way the coin feels between the fingers. These details separate an everyday coin from one that sparks serious interest years later. The 5 Rand 2020, when preserved properly, checks more boxes than many would expect. What makes this even more compelling is how underestimated this coin still is. It hasn't been overhyped. It hasn't been pushed aggressively. It sits quietly in collections, in drawers, in old tins, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. That's often how the most interesting value stories begin. Coins are history you can hold. They don't rely on electricity. They don't disappear with a password. They don't change their story overnight. And for men who value independence and tangible proof of worth, that matters. A 5 Rand coin from 2020 is a physical reminder that even in modern times, solid currency still exists. As years pass, fewer pristine examples remain. Coins are lost, damaged, or melted down. Survivors gain attention. And once collectors begin to compete for the best examples, values can move quickly. This is not guesswork. This is how numismatic history has always worked. Now here's where the story reaches its peak, and this is why you stayed until the end. Among serious collectors, high-end preserved examples of the South Africa 5 Rand 2020 have been discussed in legendary terms. In private conversations and elite circles, the potential top valuation attached to this coin has reached an astonishing figure. Before we begin, take a second to subscribe to this channel, because stories like this one are disappearing fast, and once you hear the end of this video, you'll understand why you don't want to miss what comes next. Today I'm holding a coin that looks quiet, even ordinary at first glance, but carries the weight of a nation's history, political tension, and a moment in time that will never return. This is the 2 Rand coin from South Africa, dated 1991. To many people, it was just spare change. To those who understand coins, history, and rarity, it is something far more serious. If you lived through the late 20th century, you already know that 1991 was not a normal year for South Africa. The country was standing at the edge of enormous change. Decades of apartheid were beginning to crack, negotiations were underway, and the future was uncertain. Every object produced during that year carries a fingerprint of that pressure, and coins are no exception. Coins don't lie. They are stamped by governments at moments they can never take back. This 2 Rand coin was minted during the final years of the old South African system. It represents the last breaths of a monetary era that would soon be reshaped forever. After this period, designs changed, leadership changed, and the message South Africa wanted to show the world changed as well. That is why collectors pay attention to dates like 1991. It is not just a number. It is a warning bell and a farewell at the same time. The metal, the weight, the feel in the hand, all speak to a time when the rand itself carried a very different meaning. Older collectors, especially men who grew up handling coins daily, understand this instinctively. You remember when money felt solid, when coins stayed in your pocket for years, when you could tell value by touch alone. This coin comes from that world. Look closely at the design, and you'll see strength, authority, and tradition. Nothing on this coin was accidental. The imagery was chosen to project stability during instability. Governments often do this when they sense change coming. They lean harder into symbols of power, heritage, and control. That makes coins from these periods especially fascinating, because they reveal what leaders were afraid of losing. What makes the 1991 2 Rand coin even more compelling is that it was produced during a narrow window. Soon after, South Africa began transforming its currency system to reflect a new national identity. That means coins like this were never meant to last long in circulation. Many were melted, lost, damaged, or spent without a second thought. Very few were preserved in top condition. Condition is everything in the coin world. 2 coins can share the same date and design, yet be separated by enormous value. Scratches, wear, cleaning marks, or corrosion can destroy collectability. Coins that survived untouched, sharp, and original are the ones that cause serious collectors to lean forward in their chairs. There is also the psychological factor. Men over 50 understand this deeply. We don't just collect objects. We collect meaning. We collect proof that we were there, that we lived through history, that we held something real in our hands while the world was changing. This coin taps directly into that feeling. It is a physical reminder of a turning point that many people watched unfold on the news, in newspapers, and in conversations that lasted late into the night. Over the years, stories have emerged about rare examples of this coin. Special strikes, limited batches, mint anomalies, and perfectly preserved pieces quietly moved from drawer to drawer, from estate to estate. Most families never realized what they had. Coins were tossed into jars, forgotten in boxes, or passed down without explanation. Only later did experts begin to connect the dots. When collectors talk about powerful coins, they are not just talking about metal. They are talking about survival. This 2 rand coin survived political change, economic shifts, and the disappearance of the very system that created it. That gives it a kind of authority that modern coins simply do not have. There is also scarcity working behind the scenes. While millions may have been struck originally, the number that still exists in exceptional condition today is shockingly small. Time is ruthless. Every year, more coins are lost forever. That is why values rise not suddenly, but steadily, quietly, until one day people are stunned by the numbers being discussed. Another factor that drives attention is global interest. South Africa's transition in the early 1990s is studied worldwide. Museums, historians, and private collectors seek authentic artifacts from that exact period. Coins are among the most accessible, yet most revealing, objects from that time. They were handled by ordinary citizens while extraordinary events were unfolding. For many older men, this coin also represents something personal. It reminds you of a time when the world felt tense but meaningful, when news mattered, when history was something you could feel approaching. Holding this coin is like holding a pause button from 1991, frozen just before everything changed. And here is the part that always makes people sit up straighter. In the world of high-end numismatics, rare examples of this 1991 South Africa 2 rand coin, in exceptional condition and with specific characteristics, have drawn astonishing attention. Quietly, without hype, serious collectors have assigned it a value that few would ever expect from such an unassuming piece of metal. So, if you or someone you know has old coins tucked away, especially from transitional years like 1991, it may be time to look again, not with nostalgia, but with informed eyes. History often hides in plain sight, and sometimes it waits decades before revealing what it is truly worth.